Hey, hi everyone, welcome. What I'm going to do here is show you how to use RStudio, do some coding, a few plots, and I'm calling this series the very basics because this is the very basics. So I hope that I will cover some material in about 5 parts. So this will be 1 out of 5, something like that, 4 or 5. And I hope that you learned something here. So let's start from the very beginning, of course. I am assuming that you have never dealt with R before. The very first thing you have to do is to download the R language. So you need to go to r-project.org and then you can download R via this link here, CRAN, the download. And there are various options here. There's some specific university usages or so. I just downloaded straight from the cloud. So you can click on this link, download the file, and install it in your computer. Then you have to download RStudio. So you can go to rstudio.com and find the download section there. And basically what you want to do is to download the RStudio desktop free open source license. Download the file, install it, and you should be good to go. So once you have installed everything, you can pull the icon or the shortcut into your desktop, or you can run from the start menu in Windows. You should see here under R, of course. So if you go all the way to RStudio, I just placed this shortcut on my desktop. So I'm going to launch R here for the first time so you can have a look at what the screen looks like when you first start it. So if you have installed the file successfully, and you shouldn't really have any problem with that, the very first time you open RStudio, you should see these 3 pieces. First, the console, this large portion here on the left side with some basic information about your R version, also just telling you it's a free software and there's some functions here, demo, and you can use some help functions as well to see the basic information. So when you open the first time, that's what you see. On this side here, it's what's called the environment workplace. Basically, I use this a lot for importing data sets. Look at the history of your coding. I got some stuff here. And then also if you have any connections to databases, which I don't have in this case. So nothing here right now. I wanted to start very clean so you can see how it looks like from the beginning. This portion here, this bottom right section here, lots of good stuff here. When you start creating your plots, they're going to appear right here under plots. You can check about the packages that you have available. Often you come through a textbook, or your instructor in school will tell you to download a certain package to perform some statistical analysis or build a different plot. So you can actually bring these packages into R and it will show in here. Eventually I'll show you how to install a new package. You can also update the ones that you have. So this is very helpful to see if you have the package or not. The help tab is fantastic. I use it a lot. It will show you the syntax of coding, some examples, the arguments. So I often come to this section just to make sure that I'm doing the right things. So as we go through the examples, I will show a little bit more of these different sections. Okay, so what you don't see here so far is the code editor. The code editor, it's very cool in a way that you can write your code and whatever mistake you make, it shows on the console, but your code is intact. So I like that feature, and I'll show you in a bit how that looks like. What I'm going to do here is to open a script, a code that I have already written, and I just wanted to save time and show you some of the basic stuff by looking at the code that I have written so far. So let's learn how to do this. If you have a script or code or even a notepad, a code that you have written before, you can bring into RStudio. And again, I'm going to use my file as a reference just to save time. So I'm going into the File menu here, and I'm going to Open File. And then obviously I have to find that file, our scripts, and I believe this is the one here. Okay. So don't worry about the extension and how we created this file right now. I can show you this later. Now my console comes down here, and now I see my code editor at the top right, the top left section. You can see the name of my file here and my code. So if you are familiar with Jupyter or writing in Python, the same. If you're not, that's okay too. You can use the hashtag for the markdown just to put some text information there. This is not a part of the code. This is just me telling you what we're doing here. So it's technically called markdown. And then I have my code. So I have all of this stuff that I want to go through with you in about 4 or 5 sections. But let's start with the very basics. RStudio has some built-in datasets, which is very cool if you just want to learn and practice coding. You can bring in this dataset. You don't have to upload a file, which is not complicated anyways, but you don't have to upload a file. You can just use the dataset that are built in. So how do I know what these datasets are? If you simply type data and then open and close brackets as it is written right here, you can see the types of data sets that are already built in RStudio. So in RStudio, you can either run the code by clicking on this button here, run, or you can hit Control-Enter on the keyboard. By Control-Enter or clicking on this button here, it's going to run the line that you selected. So I am in line 2, as you can see here. So if I do that, I'm going to run that line only. And that's what I'm going to do here for this next videos, just run one by one to show you how they work. So I'm going to go ahead and hit run here. So remember, all I did so far, besides putting the markdown here, that you don't really have to if you want to practice, but it's helpful to just remember what we're doing. I simply typed data, open, close brackets, and I'm going to run that code. So there you go. What RStudio did here, it created a new tab on my code editor, and it's showing me the data sets that are built in. So I have all of these different things here, like I have the name of the data set, and then what the data set is about, although yes, I don't see the data here yet. I will show you how to do that. But I can see lots of different examples. Again, if you want to practice coding, nothing better than pick up these examples and work with them. The one that we are actually going to work with is this one here, empty cars, which is about car models and their horsepower, cylinders, and so on and so forth. So RStudio simply created this tab to show me the list of data sets. I'm going to go back to my code and start working on some examples to show you how this works. So the first thing that we can do is to examine our data, our sample data set. So what is inside this data set? If you simply type the name of the data set, like I did here, empty cars, now I know that because of the name that I saw here on the list, and Control-Enter or run, let's see what happens. In the console, I can now see the entire data set, basically. So I have my car models on the left here, and then I have different columns with different types of information. Miles per gallon, cylinders, displacement, horsepower, etc. So by simply typing in the name of the data set and running the code, you will see what the data set is about. Alternatively, if it's too long, if you have 3,000 rows, for example, you can use the head and tail functions, which is exactly the same that we use in Python and Jupyter Notebooks. You can use the head to look at the first rows, and in this case, I actually specify I want to see 10. So I'm saying head, open brackets, empty cars is the name of my data set, and then I'm saying return the first 10 rows. So let's run this line. Again, I'm running the line only and see what this produces. hit run or Control Enter. And now, if you notice at the bottom here, I have my data set showing only the first 10 rows. Same as before, but I just said I just want to see the first 10 rows. I want to have a quick look at the data set. Similarly, we can use the tail function, which is exactly the same thing, but it's going to work its way down upwards. So it's going to show us the bottom records. In this case, I just ask for 5. So I'm going to run that code, tail, open brackets, empty cars, comma, and equals 5. I'm going to hit Control Enter on the keyboard for a change. And there you have it. You have the last 5 rows from the data set. And you can check that out if you like. You can see here from the entire data set that we ran before. Those are the records. The last 5 rows, starting here with this Lotus Europa. And then I can see the last 5 here. Again, if you have a data set with thousands of rows, obviously it's going to be very complicated to have a look at them all. This is not meant for you to do analysis, it's just meant to give you a glimpse of what the data set looks like. Are these numeric, floats, integers? Are there characters or strings? What is it inside this data frame? And in the next lesson, I'm also going to show you how to look for the entire data frame structure. This is it for now, and I hope to see you in lesson number 2 of the very basics of RStudio.